Of course, we know this has been a very closely watched story for Fannie and Freddie, who we know were taken into government conservatorship back in about 2008 after they were taking on way too much debt, riskier assets there in particular. But what's really interesting today is, as you pointed out, the letter that we did see from Senate Democrats, Elizabeth Warner, Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker. They're all sending a letter to Bill Pulte, who we know is the head of the FHFA. They're the ones that control and oversee Fannie and Freddie. They sent a letter to Bill Pulte essentially saying that we need to hit a pause. We need to halt this idea of pushing these companies toward an IPO and returning to public markets instead of trading particularly as over-the-counter stocks here. They're saying that Pulte and the Trump administration more broadly should actually be focusing on other different initiatives to bringing down the cost of houses in the United States. They're saying that the administration is really distracted with attacks on the Federal Reserve and all these other things where they should really be thinking about what we could be doing with what we have access to do right now instead of spending too much time on the idea of an initial public offering for these companies.
And Nora, you keep a close eye on these stocks. They started out in the red at the open, but right now they're a little bit higher. What does that mean in your view for kind of the projection that this could be an IPO that really does move pretty quickly this fall?
Right. And as you well know, Bailey, I know you cover IPOs very closely on our team as well. I mean, these are super volatile stocks. So as you mentioned, we did see them earlier in the red right off of the news about the letter being sent to Pulte. But now we're seeing them popping into the green. And if you look on a larger scale here, looking year to date, Fannie Mae shares are up about 244% year to date. Freddie Mac up about 192% so far this year. So, I mean, we really have seen a rally off of the idea that after Trump was elected, maybe under a Republican administration, we could see some progress here as it relates to taking Fannie and Freddie through an IPO here. But I mean, it tends to be a very volatile trade here, especially with some heavy hitters, particularly Bill Ackman here on the trade.
Yeah, Nora, when you talk to your sources, what's their view on the legitimacy of an IPO of Fannie and Freddie potentially combined, and how does that impact the entire real estate sector that you cover closely?
I think that's part of what is also getting a lot of the attention. I mean, as I've been speaking to sources, this is a really complicated process here, especially because we know that these were companies that used to trade on a major exchange, and of course now they're trading under pink sheets here. But as we bring them back into this idea of potentially bringing them in as an IPO, it's really a complicated process. I mean, there's a lot of intricacies that are needed. It sounds that, Trump's approval is actually going to be something that's super essential in getting this done. But we did see PIMCO even warning that a potential Fannie and Freddie IPO here could essentially roil the MBS market, also just lifting mortgage rates. That's really been a concern that I've been hearing from my sources more broadly.